All right, and welcome back to Top Cheddar Sports. It's Wednesday, so we're going to be talking some hockey, and as you can tell by the jersey, today we're going to be talking about the two Alberta teams, the Battle of Alberta, the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames. So let's jump right into it. Both of these teams kind of actually played off of each other a lot this offseason so far. With Mike Smith going to the Oilers, Cam Talbot going to the Flames, a little swap of backup goalies there. And then, of course, the James Neal Milan Lucic trade, which I'll get into in a minute. But let's start with the Edmonton Oilers. So the Oilers I have trending as steady, not really up or down. Some of the pieces they brought in, as mentioned, James Neal comes to the Oilers. Josh Archibald, a nice little depth forward signing there. Mike Smith, who could start for them or could back up Koskinen. We'll kind of see how that shakes out. I don't really see either of those guys as a clear-cut number one starter, so I think they'll battle it out in the preseason and training camp, and we'll see who wins that. And Marcus Granlund also signs with the Oilers this offseason. I like the Marcus Granlund signing. He's a guy that you can play really, in my mind, he's a top nine forward kind of guy. Maybe not so much the first line, but I like him on the second line, third line, or fourth line. He just brings a different dynamic. He's a kind of a specialized game that I really like and can fit in pretty much anywhere in your lineup. So I do really like that. But the reason the Oilers are trending steady is, despite these moves, I don't really see them as having gotten much better. I think they're still just kind of top heavy. Once you get past McDavid and Draisaitl, there's just a lot to be desired in that lineup. Defensively, they still just kind of scare me a little bit there. And then, of course, goaltending-wise, they still scare me. I see Mike Smith as a downgrade compared to Cam Talbot, slightly for them. And then Koskinen, I don't know. I don't trust Koskinen at all, and he hasn't really proven anything to me. So I have the Oilers just staying steady, and in the sense that the Oilers finished seventh in the Pacific last year, and that's exactly where I have them again this year, finishing seventh in the Pacific, right above of the LA Kings, right behind the Anaheim Ducks. So they'll fit in there. Jumping southwest to Calgary, Alberta. Taking a look at the Flames, the pieces they have brought in is Milan Lucic and Cam Talbot. Flames have had a quiet offseason as they're up against the cap. I have the Flames trending as steady as well. I don't think the Flames got any better this offseason. You could argue they got worse, losing guys like Hathaway, losing guys like James Neal, who I think will bounce back, and I think that will hurt them. They bought out Michael Stone because of their cap issues, and they still haven't signed Matthew Tkachuk, although I don't see him going anywhere. That is still a cause for concern. You don't want him to miss any training camp like Johnny Gaudreau did in the exact same situation a couple of years ago, and led to a very slow start for him. We saw it with William Nylander on the Leafs this past year as well. He didn't sign right away. He got off to a really slow start. Training camp and preseason actually clearly means a lot for hockey players, gets them back in the rhythm. So it's very important. And this goes for all the restricted free agents yet to sign. Patrick Laine, can't off the top of my head remember any the other ones, but there's a bunch. But the Flames, yeah, they get a slight upgrade at backup goalie. The things that concern me with them is I feel like last year they had a lot of career years from some of these guys, like Elias Lindholm, maybe Johnny Gaudreau, maybe Sean Monahan, Mark Giordano. I don't see every single piece of the Flames repeating their performance, which does bring cause for concern. Also, David Riddick as the number one starter, much like Koskinen, not to compare him to Koskinen, I think he's a better goalie than Koskinen, but in the sense that I don't think he's proven himself yet. I feel that way about David Riddick. And that could be something that I think bites the Flames here and holds them back. I do have the Flames making the playoffs, though. Again, I don't have them winning the division like they did last year, but I have them finishing second in the division and being one of just three teams from this division to make the playoffs. Obviously, I haven't mentioned the other two now, so you can imagine it's going to be two of the last three teams that I think will make it. Uh, but yeah, I have the Flames back in the playoffs. I think they'll be a very good team again. I just think that their depth might not be as good as last year, and they're not going to be scoring as many goals as last year, which will put more pressure on Riddick as well. I want to jump back to the Oilers real quick for a second. Something I forgot to mention. They obviously the whole Jesse Puljujarvi situation is still not resolved. He wants out of Edmonton. I don't want to say they're refusing to trade him. They're listening to offers, but they're being really stubborn with trading him. And obviously they haven't yet, and I don't see them moving him, as their GM has even said, like, we're not going to settle, like, we're fine just letting him play overseas rather than not getting value for him, which I think you take what you can get if the guy doesn't want to be there anyways. But at the same time, you're not trading him to a rival NHL team in that case, you know, and he can just play overseas, so he can't really hurt you playing against you. But I think they're kind of making a bad move with that whole situation. That's something to keep an eye on with the Oilers as well, is that whole situation there. But that'll pretty much wrap up the Alberta teams. I think both teams will be very similar to the way they were last year, and well, bad news for Oilers fans, but I don't think the Oilers are far from contending. I don't think you ever are when you have guys like McDavid and Draisaitl on your team. I just think they need the right GM to come in and put the right pieces around them. And I think James Neal might just be that first step. I think he could be a very solid winger alongside of Draisaitl or McDavid. So we'll see where they play him, but I think that could be very interesting. I think he's going to have a really good bounce back year. Um, yeah, that wraps up Alberta. So next week I will be covering the last three teams in the Pacific Division, which is the Arizona Coyotes, the Vancouver Canucks, and the Vegas Golden Knights. And obviously, as you can tell by now, since I only have one team in the playoffs so far from the five we've talked about, I think two of those three teams will make the playoffs, one won't. Again, I only have three total teams from the Pacific Division making it in the playoffs this year. So leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the Oilers and Flames. Let me know what you think about the Lucic and Neal trade. That was kind of something I've yet to really talk about in NHL videos. I want to hear what you guys think about that. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know. And yeah, tune in next week for the last of the Pacific Division before we get into the Atlantic Division, which will be following that.